you might need to just do another big push on social. Sorry, you can't see my face. Here we go. Oh, hello. I'm headed to Boston to see a client. I'm always late for the train. Okay, wait for me. First step is to make sure it's indexed. So just search for the URL in Google. I've seen this mistake before where people, one second. I've had people come to me and say, my page isn't ranking, what do I do? And then you go to Google and it's not even indexed. So that's step number one, make sure it's indexed. Step number two, you should also make sure it's cached correctly. So just take URL, type C-A-C-H-E semicolon and throw that into any browser. Now I know real die-hard technical people will, they'll come to me and they'll say, well, caching isn't like the best way to make sure your content's visible by Google. Like, I get that it's not the best way. It's a great, easy, quick way. The third thing you should do, make sure you're not just checking the rankings by going to Google and searching for the keyword. Your results are going to be personalized. They're going to be really inaccurate. Make sure that you're checking rankings to verify what you're seeing in at least 2 rank checkers. Before we get to anything proactive, we're getting a good reality check. You should also make sure to run your page through the mobile-friendly test and the web page speed test. You can use webpagetest.org, GTmetrix.
Good morning.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good. Alright, so I just finished up the client meeting. We're going to walk across town. I'm going to show you my favorite building in Boston, but while we do that, I'm going to give you lots more tips. Alright, let's go. So you need to take a really good check of your content to make sure it's actually matching the content type of what users want to find. Is the search query you're trying to rank for, does it have more of a what is or definition intent? Does it have more of a intent to receive a list of ideas? Is there an intent to see a video or images? The next thing is you should check your page layout to be sure that the UX elements are not pushing the content down below the fold. I've seen this time and time again now in the last year or two really severely impact the rankings of content. Be sure your headings, your images is allowing the content to be up above the fold even on smaller devices. Time to grab a hat. Next, we've got to talk about pop-ups. Pop-ups, pop-under, overlay, distracting UX elements, even seemingly innocuous navigation elements to popular posts. All of these distracting things that distract away from your main content could be hurting the ranking of your page. Here it is. So this building here behind me is John Hancock Tower. When they first built this building, the window panes used to fall out of it down onto the street.
The reflective glass began popping out and splattering downtown Boston.
Needless to say, they fixed that problem. Alright, you should be running an internal crawl on your site. If the link depth to this article is like bigger than 2 or 3 or 4, you really want to try to bring that up higher to make sure that you're linking to it as close to the homepage as possible. Ooh boy, it's cold. You should increase the quantity of internal links to this page. Make sure that you're linking, hey, how you doing? Make sure you're linking in context with a relevant link designed to get clicks on it to drive users to that link. Also, practically speaking, you can run quality paid ads to this page. I've seen Facebook ads, when done well, that drive a lot of quality traffic to a certain page, actually increase the rankings of that page. Alright, I see it's almost time for my train, so we're going to go over to Back Bay Station and finish up the tips from there. Alright, I'm at South Station waiting for the train. Now you may need to be creative and find other ways to give this content a push. Maybe when you first launched it, it didn't get enough traction and Google didn't see enough activity around this piece of content to decide that it was authoritative enough to rank. One thing you should consider doing is maybe actually updating the content itself. Then consider some outreach. Obviously, don't make it spammy. Make that outreach with the intention actually of asking for feedback on the content. Find some people in your space, find some influencers, find some people that might enjoy the content, and reach out to them and don't ask them for a link. Don't ask them for a share. Instead, ask them for their honest feedback on the content. Like you're actually feedback, and what that naturally does is it gets eyeballs in front of it, it gets some activity going on it, and then if you do update it and make it better, you can then reach back out to them. Quite often if somebody's been involved with something, they're likely to maybe want to share it on their own. Do some guest publishing on relevant sites with relevant tangent topics that you can then point back to this piece of content. Again, don't be local. Pro tip, if you can get into your log files, look at how often search engines are crawling the content. If they're not crawling it every day or every other day, that's a metric you might want to try to improve. And I should also suggest installing some type of scroll tracking onto your content and maybe get a sense for how they're interacting with it. These user metrics are going to have a big impact on whether you'll be able to rank or not. You might want to consider the fact that if your domain is not closely relevant to the topic of the actual article, so if you have, you know, a web development company, but you're posting something about productivity, there's a slight relationship there, but it might not be close enough in the eyes of Google and users that they would consider your site an authoritative enough source for that, even if you have a high domain authority. One suggestion I have with that, actually test moving that content onto another platform or in a guest posting location, somewhere that has a good domain authority, but somewhere like even a medium.com or LinkedIn that has a high authority, and that way you can see if the content's not ranking on a higher authority site, it might be a problem with the content itself. I guess that's how we're gonna wrap up today's video. Park any closer?